SharePoint is a fantastic tool to build a site to have all of your training and development resources. In a previous video that I've linked below, I've shown how you can actually build a training tracker to keep on top of all the training certificates of your employees. In this video, I'm now going to show you how to design a learning and development style SharePoint site that you can embed this training tracker into to help people navigate all the training resources they need. My name's Dougie Wood and I'm a Microsoft MVP. I've been working with SharePoint for the past 20 years and I've been helping people build out solutions like this all over the world. So if you need any professional services to help you with SharePoint, there's a link in the description below to contact me.
So this was the training tracker that we built in a previous video. And essentially the way it works is that we have a number of different SharePoint lists. We have our config area, our employees list, and our tracker list. Now the main bit which most people would look at would be this tracker list, which is essentially breaking down all of the kind of items that we are tracking. So the title is the actual training itself. Within that we have an item per employee, which again we can filter by. So say for example we were only interested in a specific employee, we can use this to filter to say actually only show me Dougie's training and where that's up to, so I can see mine in here and clear out the filters. We could filter by role, so we can tag the role of the individual, the training type, the training provider, the renewal frequency. Now this is the important part when it comes to the automation that's built into the back end of this, where when this has been marked as complete, we would want to have a renewal date. So this is obviously in months. So based on when this is marked as complete, it would automatically set the next the renewal date for that. And then we would have a series of email chases that would start maybe like 6 months beforehand, saying, hey, you need to go and you basically refresh this and get a new completion date for that particular record. That would obviously change the status. The status can either be not started, in progress, or complete. If they're a new employee, obviously it would begin at the not started portion. Then once it's marked as complete, you get a completion date. I say the renewal date would be automatically calculated. You also have the assessor, so somebody who's actually looked at this and said, yes, I'm happy to say that they're fine. And then we've got our competency level. So we've got things like aware, competent, or expert. And again, we can filter by any of these things. We can slice and dice this data in multiple ways. We could look for things which are past the renewal date. We could look for like experts. There's loads of ways we can do this. And as I say, we build this and we can deploy this to any organization. So if you are interested in this system, there's a link in the description below where you can book in a free consultation to discuss how we can deploy this for your organization. I should also show you that there's a configuration area. So the config area is basically an area that only admins would see, but this is where you're setting up the actual training. So for example, forklift safety training, what role it applies for, the training type, the training provider, and how often it would need to be renewed. And essentially when you then add in a new employee, it would then automatically add all of those tasks to the tracker based on once you've added an employee into here. So you'd select the employee, you'd select their role, and then basically based on that employee's role, it would look up all the training which is assigned to that role and then create an item in the tracker for that individual. So forevermore, they have more training items that they need to basically complete on a frequency which is set per training record. So now you understand the system. So we've got the back end, we've got the SharePoint list and things like that. We now need to create a home page for people to use this and navigate it, because at the moment we've just got the default SharePoint home page and it just looks yuck and it's not very exciting to look at. So we want to make a nice user experience for our users. So to fast track this a little bit, what I'm going to show you is you can apply site templates. Now, there's a whole bunch of different SharePoint site templates which are in here for all sorts of different things, department sites, events, human resources, things like that. Now, you don't actually have to use these templates for their exact purposes. So say, for example, if you looked at this and thought, oh, actually, I really like this department layout, I'm going to use this as the homepage of my training tracker. It doesn't matter. It's just a template at the end of the day. But I actually quite like this Learning Central, and I think it kind of fits quite nicely with what we're trying to do, creating a bit of a learning portal, a training tracker type of thing. So you can see what it's going to look like. We are still going to have these tiles across the top. We are going to have some navigational items, a little bit of text. I don't think we're going to need things like news. We might have the upcoming events, to be fair. So if there was training that we knew that was going to be taking place, that people would likely be booking onto, we could put the dates into here. And then we've got a couple of kind of things down here. So this might be like more information. It might be accessing training videos. It could be a whole host of different things. So I'm going to click on Use Template. And that's going to spin this up for me. That is going to have a little think about it. It's going to take a couple of seconds to deploy. And once it's deployed, there we go. It's changed it. Now, it has obviously applied the colors across the top and the banner area here. We don't have to keep that. I mean, I quite like this for now until I come up with something else. I think I'm happy just to keep these colors as they are, to be fair. You can see it's automatically added some additional tabs across the top. So learn a new language, learn a new skill, get involved. Now, we don't have to keep any of those things, but it's just suggestions. So you can see that these are just kind of suggestions. They don't actually even have any content behind them. I'm just going to refresh the page just to make sure everything has finished loading. Okay. And then I think the first thing that I'm probably going to do, to be fair, is basically work on this homepage from top to bottom. So I'm going to start with a navigation bar. Now, to edit the navigation bar, you just click on the Edit button on the right-hand side, and you can see all these links. Now, as I say, these kind of everything from Tracker below has just come with this template, and actually it has no link. They're just suggestions. So I'm actually just going to, I might, to be fair, move this one up, and then I'm going to make this a sublink. And I might have a tab called Courses, and then, I mean, learn new language is probably not something that we were interested in. Learn a new skill, get involved. It's fine. So when we click Save, because I've made those sublinks, you'll see I've now got this like drop down, like so. And now what we probably would want to do, I'll come back and probably flesh this out later on. But courses, we probably want to break these down probably by department area. It would probably make the most sense. So say production, sales, support, whatever it needs to be, maintenance, we'd probably have those as like different departments, and then different training and links to different training underneath them. The employees list, so actually that and the config list shouldn't necessarily be accessible to everybody, because people don't necessarily need to have access to this. So I'm going to hide this under what I'm going to call an admin link. So I'm going to call this admin. I'm going to move these links down like so, and make them sublinks. Whoops, there's a config I wanted to move down. In fact, actually, I'm going to put all of them under there for now. Because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to have that tracker filter by the employee that's viewing this site, and then I'm going to display it down here. I think I'm going to replace this section here with the tracker itself. So what I do want to do is I want to hide this admin. So not everyone should be able to be seeing these lists. Now, technically, I'm only hiding the link. The lists in the backgrounds do still exist, but they're very unlikely to find them. So what I'm going to do is select, in fact, I've missed a step. I need to enable the site navigation audience targeting, click Save. Then what I'm going to do is go back to Edit. Now, I probably don't actually have a test security group to do this right now, but you can now see that there's a box here which says audiences to target, and it says start typing to select a group. I'm not sure if I've even got a security group, to be honest, for this test. Probably should have thought of that before I did this. But imagine you have a security group called training admin, for example. You'd put that into there. and select it. And you can have basically up to 10 different security groups as different audiences. What that then means is that when you click on save, only people in that specific security group will see that link. Everyone else, the typical end users, will just log in and only see this link for courses. So it just means that you're showing and hiding it dependent on whether or not you are an administrator of this training tracker SharePoint site. Again, this is something that we can help you set up if you need to. Okay, so as I say, I would come back and I'd probably add a couple more kind of links across the top up here afterwards, but I'm not going to bore you with that. You understand how to update the navigation bar now. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add the training tracker down here. Now, as I say, I don't think I need these. I think this is just kind of like a bit of sort of empty space at the moment. So I'm going to edit the page and I'm going to just remove these web parts. Don't think I need that. Don't need any of this. So let's just delete all of these bits down here. Once we've done that, I just need to check what this layout is. I just think it needs to be one column section. And then I'm going to add a list web part. So the list web part is basically now going to pull out my training tracker. And it's going to show all the items in here. Now, when I click on republish, you'll see that actually it's too big to fit on this page. There's too much information in here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a simplified version of this view so that actually it's a bit more cut down and they can see it all on one page. Plus also at the end of the day, when we filter this by the employee that's viewing it, there's not going to be as many items, so it's not going to be as long either on the page. Now, what I'm going to do is create a kind of my documents view or my tracker view. To do this, I'm going to go back to the list. So I click on see all. It's going to take me back into the view. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to save view as, and then call this my tracker. And then what I'm going to do is actually look at what fields that most likely people are going to need to see. So I think actually we probably don't need to group by anything. We do need to filter. So we need to filter by the employee. Now, don't just select your name here. Make sure you're selecting this me, because this @me literally means the current user that's viewing it. So click on apply, and then that shortens it down. We're then going to hide some of these additional fields because I don't think we need all of these on here. So what I'm going to do is go on column settings, show and hide. And I think we need the title. We need to know what the title is. We don't need the employee because they know their own name. We don't need the role because they know their own role. We don't need the training type. Probably the training provider might be a good idea. Like if I was looking at this myself, I'd probably want to know, am I going on an internal training? Am I going on external training? Things like that. Probably don't need to know the renewal frequency. I would need to know the status. Probably don't need the completion date. Actually, no, I will. And then the renewal date. We don't need to know the assessor, and we don't need to know the competency level. So we click on apply, and then you'll see that'll cut this right down now. So you can see it's much more simplified. Now, for some reason, it's grouped again. Sometimes I find it does do this, and you just need to go old school. Go into the drop-down area, click on Edit Current View, and I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom where it will say Group By, and I'm just going to ungroup it. It's grouping by title still, but I don't think it's necessary unless you've got literally tens or hundreds of different records per employee. I don't think you necessarily need to do that. For some reason, it's also just now lost my filter, so it's no longer filtering by me. So I'm going to put back the column for the employee. Click on OK. Filter by me. Click on apply. And then I'm going to just save the view. I'm going to hide this column. Save the view again. Right, now we've got my tracker view. I think this is perfect. I think this is all we need to see. Now, a user can always at any time choose to see the full item. It's not like we're hiding this information from them. I just don't think in the summary area of this page that we need to see it. So I'm just going to edit the web part. In the views area, I'm going to select on my tracker. Click on apply, and there we go. It's cut down quite nicely. Now there is actually a little bit of space left over if we really needed to, if we really need to see something. But I don't think necessarily we're going to need to right now. Cool. So what I think we should also do is maybe turn off basically hide the command bar. I'm going to change the title to say My Training Tracker, so it's obvious what that is. We probably should hide the show all or the see all, because as I say, we're not using permissions to hide the items of other employees. We're just using views. So we probably want to make it as difficult as possible for them to go and find the full tracker. Then we can click on apply, and that is then applied. So all we then need to do is republish to see what this looks like for an end user. If you're interested in this system, then we do deploy it at a fixed price to our customers. Get in touch for a free demo using the link in the description below. User. Cool, so we've got that. Now we do actually have a little bit of space left over on this right-hand side. So if we did want to add any more fields back in, of course we can do. In fact, I might just do that. I might just go back in and just see what additional fields we might want to choose to add. Now we know we've got a little bit more space. So as I say, sometimes this is just trial and error. Just play around with it just to find what should fit. I think maybe we probably want to say competency level, so we know like what level we got for that particular training. And that probably is it, to be honest. At a glance, I think now we know we've got that kind of space. I think that's fine. We've had that back in, and as I say, we're going to go back to the home page. So click on the logo, click on the site name, will take us back here, and now we can see that. As I say, there is a little bit more wiggle room. We could choose actually, if we wanted to, just to space the columns out a little bit more if we wanted to. So maybe just provide a little bit more space for these things, and then just save view, go back to our home page, and there we go. So we've got this nicely padded out now. We don't need necessarily any more room than that. So there we go. We've got our training tracker on there. Now, of course, as I say, these top kind of areas, we would update these to link to either specific resources, training guides, materials, things like that. There is a document library that lives on every SharePoint site. So if you wanted to, you can always add some training documents, training materials, videos, things like that into the documents library here, and we can link to them across the top of our SharePoint site as well. One thing that I think is pretty cool to do, and I've seen organizations do this type of thing before, is if you're tracking competency level, it means that you could technically have a list of like experts. So for training or mentoring, or even just contacting someone who's an expert in something specific to ask them a question, sometimes it's good to be able to see all of the people that have got that expert level competency. Now, I've actually already created a view, which is quite simple to do. You've seen me do it, basically filtering and then saving. And I've got this experts view. So this is all the expert views of all the different trainings that we've got. So if I now select the view across the top, so I'm selecting the URL, copying that, go back to my home page, what I might then do is change one of these tiles to say, there we go. So we might say, find an expert, and we will change the link like so, and click on republish. And then that means then we can click on that and it takes it directly into this tracker list, and it's filtered it by experts. So these are all the people that are going to be experts in something specific. Now, I've seen this used by multiple organizations in different ways, but essentially it's a good way of kind of keeping expertise knowledge in-house if you need to find someone to ask a question, or if someone's struggling with training and you need to assign them a mentor. It's easy just to go and find somebody like that in that way. So we might also want some other types of views to easily access documents. So it might be, say, for example, we want to see based on status, so things which are not started or completed. So again, let's just jump back into our tracker and let's filter by not started. And again, just click on Save View As, call it not started, click on Save, and then again, grab the URL. I know it's just off screen, but I'm just right clicking on the URL, go back to homepage, and I'm actually going to put this underneath admin. So what I think I'm probably going to do now is just create a couple of different layers. You can see at the moment admin, just cancel out of this. Admin's just got these links underneath it, but I think what I'm going to do is maybe create a sub layer. So I'll call this maybe configuration or system, for example, and then move this up. And I'm just going to make these now sublinks. So now I'll have under admin, I've got system links, and then I'm going to create a second label area, which is going to be based on tracker status, or we'll just call it status for short. We then I'm going to promote that sublink because I want it to be at the same layer as system. And then in here, this is where I would then have, say, not started. Whoops. That actually can be a link because we've got that link we can just paste in. Whoops. So not started. Make sublink. And then, as I say, we can see very quickly, we've now got system, our system links. And remember, admin's hidden, so it's only the admin's the system who can see this. We've then got not started, and by clicking on that, that takes us directly to all the non-started items. But we've also got in progress and completed, so we might want to add those in as well. So let's just go back to the home page. Now for now I don't actually have a view for these, but let's just create them like this for now, like so. Click on save. There we go. So now we've got these different status, so we can filter the items by different status as well. Now, one other thing that we might want to do is maybe have an area of kind of sort of priority links or something like that. So it might be things like expired, so things which have passed the expiry. So again, if I just go back into our tracker and go to all items, we might want to find all of the items which are past the current renewal date. Now this one is a little bit more advanced. So you can't necessarily just go and filter by, and you can see, you can filter by specific dates, but that would just get far too complicated and confusing. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new view. So save view as, I'm going to call this my expired, or call it past renewal date. Again, make this a public view. And what I'm going to do is edit the view, so edit current view. And I'm going to scroll down to where it's got filter. We've got some more advanced filtering going on in here. So we would filter by renewal date is less than or equal to, and then what you can do is you're going to put in today into there, then click on OK. Then what that's going to do is it's going to create you a view where you can see everything now, which is the renewal date is past today's date. Again, all we then need to do is get that link, go back to the home page, click on edit, and then under sort of status, we might have pass or call it expired. Click on save. And again, now very quickly, we can just see any training records which are then expired. On the home page, we might want to just update some more of these tiles. So it might be, say for example, we want to change some of these links. So this might be, say for example, booking onto a training course. So let's just change this. This might be e-learning. And we don't necessarily have to even have all 4 tiles if we don't want to either. So if you don't have enough content for them, you can choose just to get rid of some of the tiles as well. Oops. So what I'm going to just do is go into here and just remove one of those tiles. So I might just change some of the images as well, just to make them feel a little bit more. I mean, this feels quite corporate. A lot of the people looking at this might be looking at this. I work with a lot of manufacturing organisations, so it might be a bit more sort of manufacturing themed. So we'll just change this image to sort of match that a little bit more. So I'll look at this. Try and change some of these images. It'll update in a sec. Then we just need to choose a focal point. Maybe just drag this down a little bit. Cool. I think the rest of them look quite good. Maybe change this image. So obviously this is just sample content, but typically this might link to sort of training videos or things like that, or finding out more kind of information. So let's maybe just update this. I mean, maybe put find out more. Might change this to say welcome to the training tracker, something like that. And there we go. So we've got some of this. So maybe let's just change this image. In fact, I'm going to pause the video just whilst I find a couple more images, because you don't need to sit around and wasting time watching me finding images. I'll be back in a second. There we go. We've got some nice new images here. As I say, a lot of kind of training might be around things like booking onto forklift training, finding an expert, or maybe a mentor, accessing e-learning, booking onto training courses. So these images just look a little bit more in line with the kind of types of organizations that quite often would deploy this type of system. Additional resources, so you might have things like different things down here: forms, finding courses, tech help, finding instructor my courses, things like that. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this further down here. Again, I don't think I necessarily need all of this text and all these kind of images and things like this down here. So what I'm going to just do is drag this down here like so. And what I'm then going to do is I'm going to add in, I'm actually going to duplicate this, and I'm going to drag this up here. And maybe we could have, say, training based on department. Department resources. So it might be different trainings depending on what kind of department you're in. So let's just maybe just make this a bit shorter. So it might be, say, production. It might be maintenance. It might be sales. It might be HR, whatever it is, different areas. then obviously we would need to create, we'd need to sort of change those images. So again, we can just change the icons in here. Don't know if we've got kind of a build type of thing. Just change some of these. To change the icons. And then we might have people, HR. So say this could be this could be essentially like different resources going to different trainings. You might have pages that are set up specific for each department with different types of links and things like that. So it just helps people navigate to things which are going to be relevant to them. Then we've got my training tracker, and then we've also got this upcoming events. So upcoming events you can add without being in edit mode. But actually, I'm just going to go back into edit mode because I don't want this to say upcoming events. I want this to say something like upcoming training. Click on republish. And then what we're going to do is essentially add in some upcoming training. So, I don't know, let's just come up with some random thing. So, it might be, say, IT data security training, and that might just be sort of like a small kind of refresher thing. So we'll just select a date for this, and that might be say from 3 till 4 p.m. We can select an image, so it might be that we just select an image from stock images, or we could upload our own image. So let's just find like a general kind of office image. There we go, that will do. Well, that one actually looks quite nice. Use that. You can select where it is going to be. So you might select as a physical location, or it might be online. You could provide a link to a Teams meeting if it was going to be remote. You could put a bit of text about who it is. And then also, when it says event participants, I think it's usually better to think of this as who's the host of the event. So it might be, say, for example, George is going to be hosting this training, but by putting his name in here, people can select that and find his contact details by clicking on his name and contacting him if they had any questions about this particular training. Then we just need to click save, and that creates our training event. And then by going back on here, we can see this will then appear on here shortly. Now I'm just going to pause the video whilst I create a few more of those. So there we go. We've now got plenty of trainings, events that are inside of our events web part, which you can scroll through, and a user can always choose to click on them to add them into their own calendar as well, or you could choose to integrate maybe a third-party booking system to book them onto a specific training course if you wanted to, and then put a link to it in the actual training event itself. So there we go. I think we've basically got our training tracker set up. The only final things I would likely then do would be maybe change the look, the branding, the colors a little bit. So click on change the look. I should also mention as well that obviously we can create a SharePoint site just like this for you with all these solutions and automations in place. So if you would like to get in touch, there's a link in the description below to contact us for a free SharePoint consultation. I'm just going to change the theme, so maybe apply one of these that I've recently created. It's a little bit strong, that one, to be fair. I quite like this kind of blue colour. It's quite nice, it's quite strong. So maybe we'd go with that. Or maybe, what's this blue? Still pretty strong. I think I'll go with this blue, and then what I think I might do is just change it up a little bit. As long as I apply this, change the look. Let's have a little look at the header. Design, maybe just make that a little bit lighter so it's not so strong, and then click on save. I think we do need some kind of logo for it to go up here, so I'm just going to grab a Microsoft logo to put up there. For now, I'm just going to use the SharePoint logo. Obviously, you can put your own company logo up there. I'm just going to go and change the look. Then I'm going to go on to header and then design. and then on the site logo thumbnail, I'm just going to click on change image, which will give me a pop-up box. I can of course then select the SharePoint logo that I've got saved to my local computer, click on save, and there we go. We've got our site all now set up. So one final look, as I say, we've got our admin links across the top, which are locked down, so only admins can see them. We've got our courses that everyone can access. As I said, I would probably spend a bit of time just uploading and changing those. Got our main links that people are going to use to sort of help navigate. Got the department resources, the training tracker, as well as upcoming training events, and some additional resources at the bottom. All of this can be completely configured and customized to your requirements. If you enjoyed that video, please do subscribe. Also, continue to watch me build out a QMS in SharePoint by clicking on the video on the screen now. See you there.